It's time for another WrestlePlanet news update, as the Acclaimed have been pulled from an upcoming AEW show following that controversial rap. Paul Heyman calls out The Rock ahead of a potential match with Roman Reigns. And we have news on CM Punk's training ahead of his All Elite Wrestling debut. All that and more coming up in today's video, but first... Today, Major League Wrestling announced their latest signing, who has signed a multi-year deal with the company. RHODES, who has performed for many promotions across Mexico and the United States, including matches in PWG, GCW, and AAA, will be part of the upcoming MLW Azteca roster. Azteca will be MLW's version of Lucha Underground, and a TV deal for the new show is set to be announced, with Wrestling Inc. revealing last week that a deal has been signed. RHODES is known as the master of strange style, donning Mayan tribal face paint, and MLW have described him as one of the most exciting luchadors on the planet. He was mentored by the legendary Blue Demon Jr. and will be competing in their middleweight division. AEW star Serena Deeb recently took to Twitter to post an update on her injury status after recently revealing she had issues with her left knee. Once again speaking from a wheelchair, Deeb revealed that she is making progress and is able to walk again and no longer needs a knee brace. She continued the heel vibes from her last update and went on to talk about the lack of respect that's in the business today, suggesting that she is returning as an old school heel. She also made reference to having to shave her head on national television during her time in the straight edge society led by CM Punk. Her latest gimmick seems to be a homage to Dean Malenko's Man of 1000 Holds after giving herself a new nickname and said, "I've dedicated my entire life to professional wrestling. Do you know how long it took me to learn 1000 holds? A very, very long time. I have put in my hours, I have paid my dues. If there were a PhD in pro wrestling, you better believe that I would have it by now. So when I return, it doesn't matter who they throw in front of me, whether it's a bunny, a beast, an alien, or a doctor, they will all see that there is only one professor of professional wrestling. I am Serena Deeb, the woman of 1000 holds." It's gonna be interesting to see Serena step back in an AEW ring with this new edge, and going by her previous video, she is fully focused on All Elite Wrestling, with her run in NWA seemingly coming to an end. AEW wrestler and EVP CODY RHODES recently took part in a conference call to answer questions from the media. The subject of the recent Chris Jericho-Nick Gage deathmatch came up and was asked if he thinks that the style has a place on television wrestling. CODY revealed that he had considered doing a deathmatch in the past against Matt Tremont, but never pulled the trigger on it. He went on to say that it does have a place, but shouldn't happen every week, and said, "I don't think it's something you'll see often, and I think it's important that you balance your show out with, sure, there was this deathmatch between the Painmaker and Nick Gage, an unbelievable match, but also there are wrestlers on our roster who try to present a little bit more of a family aspect to what they do, a little bit more clean cut." Obviously, deathmatch wrestling is a divisive topic, with many people loving it and just as many people hating it. It's something you can't overdo, otherwise it does lose its edge, and it could also piss off a lot of pizza advertisers. Elsewhere in the interview, Rhodes discussed AEW's momentum and noted the importance of building new stars and said, "Take a look at Darby Allin. Really, look at him. There are kids at every crowd, and that's one thing at these shows, I count the shirts I see in the front row. I see the kids with the face paint on. That's huge. To put your hat in the company is building your next golden circle. We know who the golden circle of the company is right now. Their faces are on all the billboards, they're on all the action figures, all the things, but that will change, and this is a company that will not make the mistake where we hang on too long. When it's time to change, it's time to change, and developing young talent is crucial." Despite complaints that AEW are signing too many established names rather than building their own talent, the growth of Darby Allin, Hangman Page, MJF, Britt Baker, as well as many more can't be ignored, and this is despite such names as Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley having a spot on the roster, and as I've said before, it takes stars to make stars, and AEW's next golden circle, as CODY puts it, is coming through nicely. Golden circle? Well, that sounds wrong. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you scroll down and drop a like and subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head towards 20,000 subscribers. But now that you've done that, let's get on with the rest of the video. Next up, we have some backstage news from NXT, which indicates that the mood in the camp is not great after the recent releases a few days ago. For those that missed it, WWE released 13 NXT talents, and word has it that the brand is set for a major overhaul. The changes will see a shift in direction towards larger wrestlers under the age of 30, returning to a developmental philosophy rather than a third brand idea that they've been pushing towards over the past couple of years. This has seemed to left a lot of NXT wrestlers worried for their future, with Wrestling Insider WrestleVotes adding that the mood at the NXT taping this week is not good ahead of tonight's show, and they tweeted, "The mood at the PC tonight ahead of tonight's NXT show, oh boy, tensions running high to say the least." Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp quote tweeted this and said, "It's not great." WWE are said to be far from done with their recent mass releases, and this combined with the new changes to NXT no doubt has left people questioning their future in the company. It's certainly going to be interesting to watch these changes come into place and see how that affects the rest of the roster. Earlier this month, AEW's Max Caster of the Acclaimed sparked controversy during one of his pre-match raps on the 100th episode of AEW Dark. Caster made reference to the Olympian Simone Biles' mental health issues, as well as the 2006 Duke Lacrosse sexual assault allegations. This led to AEW President Tony Khan condemning the rap, as well as Caster being pulled from an upcoming indie show. It seems that there's been more punishment coming his way, as after being originally advertised for tonight's AEW Dark episode, the Acclaimed have now been completely removed. The rapping wrestler is still yet to appear on AEW television since the incident and has been quiet on social media. There's no news on how the problem has been handled behind the scenes, but it seems the Acclaimed will be kept off of shows at least for a little while. In a recent interview with Inside the Ropes, Paul Heyman, the special counsel of the WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, spoke about rumors of an upcoming match with The Rock taking on the Tribal Chief. There is rumors circulating that The Rock will be at Survivor Series in November in order to set up the showdown ahead of WrestleMania 38 next year, and this is what Paul Heyman had to say on the matter. Anybody who suggests they wouldn't be interested in the WrestleMania main event against Roman Reigns is lying to you. Roman Reigns is the most dominant WrestleMania main eventer in history, and Rock is just one of many people who are clamoring to step into the ring with Roman Reigns anytime, especially at WrestleMania. Heyman, who is a master of keeping kayfabe in outside interviews, spoke about what will happen if The Rock ever gets in the ring with Roman and said, "If The Rock steps into the ring with Roman Reigns at any time, let alone at WrestleMania, that will be The Rock's farewell, whether The Rock wants it to be or not." And honestly, based on Roman Reigns' most recent work as the Tribal Chief, who is arguably, and don't get mad at me, I said arguably, the best heel in the business today, a showdown with a megastar like The Rock would be a huge draw for Mania and would certainly have my interest. But what do you think of the rumored Roman Reigns versus The Rock match? Let me know in the comments down below. And finally, we have an update on CM Punk's training ahead of his AEW debut and return to wrestling. Punk hasn't worked a match since 2014, where he took part in the Royal Rumble match, which has led many to believe that there may be some ring rust on the 40-year-old. A report from Fightful seems to suggest that this is not the case, as Punk is said to be performing like he never left. Punk has not only been doing training on his own, but was doing sessions for the Heels TV show, which is a wrestling-based TV series coming up on the Starz network. Sources who have worked with Punk over the last 6 months have nothing but good things to say, with one source saying that he looks, quote, completely healthy and looks even better than he did towards the end of his run with WWE 7 years ago. Another source told Fightful that they got the feeling Punk had already started training before he worked on Heels, due to how impressed they were. This is of course great news heading into his expected AEW debut next Friday on AEW Rampage The First Dance, with his first match potentially taking place at the AEW All Out pay-per-view. And I honestly can't wait for the next few months of AEW, and next Friday couldn't come soon enough. And before you go, why not check out my video where I discuss 5 ways that AEW could book the debut of CM Punk.